Hello and welcome to Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign. Today we're going to be looking at Winter Survival. It's just released a demo over the past couple of days, and the full game will be released around quarter 2 of 2022. There hasn't been many survival games coming out over the past month or so. It's been quite dead, and the survival games I was playing before have just dropped player base massively. Myth of Empires are just not doing for me what it used to do. Now I was just going through the Steam store and I found this and I saw the demo on it and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to jump in and give it a go. Now the premise of the game is basically you're just out on a hike in Mount Washington State Park with a couple of friends and it all goes to shit and you end up being left alone to fight for to survive on this mountain range. Now you're not given the full story during the demo. I'm sure when the actual game releases you'll see how you ended up on a mountain and all of your friends getting murdered and stuff, but on the demo you don't really get that. You just get a gist of what the mechanics of the game are, the general feel, the ambience, etc. And I do have to say the graphics on the game are absolutely amazing. The way the game looks and feels and the surroundings, it just looks great. It feels great. And it has a couple of mechanics in there from other types of games that we've played before that really fit in well with this kind of survival game. So let's go over the mechanics that are part of the game and then we'll go over some of the actual things that I like, some of the things I dislike. So it can kind of give you a better viewing of whether you should actually try this game or not. Now there is a demo that is free to play. You can jump on Steam right now and download it. I will leave a link for that in the description and in the pinned comment for you to check it out if you fancy it, so make sure to have a look. And remember, if you do enjoy my content, throw up a like. If you'd like to see some more survival and RPG gaming content, throw up a subscribe. And if you'd like to support myself and the channel, we do have a Patreon link in the description. So this game kind of runs like most survival games. You're out in the middle of nowhere, you've got to collect resources, you've got to look after yourself, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to get water. There's some added mechanics in there which is actually quite nice when it comes to the food and the sort of eating in the game, where if you eat food that's cold, you don't get as much sustenance from it, as well as the food spoiling over time. Now you can cook the food, which heats it up, which gives you more sustenance. It gives you more food levels, so you can eat significantly less if you cook it. But if you're stuck on the outside, you can just eat random raw vegetables you find out there. You find wild carrots and wild potatoes, etc., etc. So there are ways to get by, so you don't always have to have or find a campfire. Now during the actual demo itself, I don't know if it's going to be in the game itself, but there's no base building, there's no you can't build campfires out in the wild. You can find campfires out there. This is more of a game where you will go outside, you will do your exploring and find things that already exist in the world rather than building upon a bit of flat ground or something like that, which is quite interesting to me. It's a different thing that I'm used to when it comes to survival games. Every game nowadays normally comes out and you're just building your base, doing the little craft and place sort of mechanics, and this one isn't that way. Now there is space damage that you get. You can find sort of structures around a place like cabins, and you can find different buildings, different campsites that you can sort of set up to cook your food, etc. And it is very, very basic in what you can actually create. So if you find a hunter's cabin, for example, in the middle of nowhere, and it's got some damaged walls, the cold will get in. So when you place a fire camp down, yes, you will be able to stand in front of the fire, but you also don't get protected from the elements outside when there's blizzards, etc. So you got to build planks, you got to put the planks on the walls, you got to fill in the roof, you got to find parachutes, or you got to find some sort of fabric out there, maybe an old tent or something like that you can craft into a fabric using the crafting table, and then use that to fix the roof or fix the walls, etc., etc. Now the crafting was very limited in the demo itself, so I don't know how far they're going to go with the actual crafting mechanics, whether you'll actually be able to build your own stuff, etc., etc., place it down. But so far, the way that it's actually going, and from the descriptions of the game itself and everything that I've sort of checked out, you're going to be just building off of what's already in the environment. Now, one really cool mechanic that I found quite interesting was something like Assassin's Creed, where you go and you press a button, you press Q on your keyboard, and it will bring up a sort of instinct part of the gameplay where you'll actually just be able to see where the vegetables are, you'll be able to follow animal tracks, you'll be able to sense bloodline, you can go and find water, it will help you to find the areas where there are springs, etc., where you can warm yourself up. And I thought it was actually quite interesting. I quite liked that little mechanic that was in the game. And you can see where the rabbit holes are, etc., so you can place your traps down and then catch rabbits, so you can cook them and eat them. If you do damage a deer or something like that, then you can follow its blood trail to find the body, or if like a bear or something kills a deer or a wolf, you can follow the bloody bear paws back to the carcass and get some meat off of it if it hasn't eaten the whole thing. So it is quite, I really did actually enjoy that part of the game. Like I'm really looking forward to seeing that in its full glory when the game is fully released. Now, obviously this is winter survival. So there's going to be a lot of stuff in the game that involves being cold. Now, there are different ways that you can warm yourself up. You can go to a hot spring, stand nearby. You can warm yourself up over there. You can start a campfire in one of the places that you've made your sort of base, your area where you're going to be building your stuff and cooking and sleeping, etc. And you can set up a fire in there and that will cool you down. It will hold the heat in better if you've repaired it, as I said earlier, when you found your different like hunters cabins, etc. you're going to be able to use. And there are like campfires where other people have been trekking through and been caught out here and or used to live out here. And there's a lot, according to developers, when you're actually going around and searching, you can find different areas where people have lived up here 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and it's sort of kind of a lore aspect to it where you can find out some of the past of the area, which I found quite interesting as well. I love that sort of thing in my games, and it's definitely a welcome addition. Now let's talk about the combat. There is very little to no combat in the game. When you're going to be fighting bears and wolves, they wanted the game to be as realistic as possible. Now, if you're just out there hiking, you're not going to have the wherewithal to go and be able to make a bloody bow or some sort of spear. I know if for me, for example, yes, I was trained. I was trained in survival in different elements and blah, blah, blah. I know how to survive, but most people do not know how to do these things. And the player, I'm guessing, is kind of along those sort of lines. You can't go out and you can't just get a piece of wood and stick a string to it and you make a bow. It's not really how it works. And you can't walk up to a bear and stab it to death with a knife. It's not that way inclined in this gameplay. It's very realistic in the way that it does it. So you're going to be wanting to set up bear traps and that sort of thing to be able to make sure that you can run a bear into those traps, or you can have traps around the place that you are, because the bears just turn up outside and they try smashing your door down and stuff like that. It's quite interesting, and it adds a sort of new dynamic to the game where it's a lot of just being able to survive, running, more realism than you'll have in other games, throwing like 100 spears at a wolf that you've got tied to your back or in your bag, and it's kind of nutty. The wolves hunt you in pack. You can sort of jump off of cliff edges and to get away from wolves so they don't jump down on you, and they'll be standing on top of the cliff. You'll be looking up at them. It's quite I found it quite enjoyable. The fact that I couldn't really have 100 spears to throw at a bear until it dies running around in circles. I found that more interesting than a lot of games that we've had currently and recently. So this is very much a very different experience. Now, what I liked about the game was the ambience, the way it looked, the way it felt. The music in the background was very nice. The no combat and more fear sort of thing in it. There is mechanics in the game where you actually have a sanity meter, where if you're running in fear of the wolves, your sanity will go down. If you're freezing cold, your sanity will go down. If you warm yourself up, if you're protected inside of a building, your sanity will go up to the point where, like, if your sanity gets below a certain point, you start hallucinating. So it adds a more realistic approach to the actual mind of the player while they're actually running around and you're surviving in this area, which would be something that happens in real life. Now, the no combat aspect of the game, I really do enjoy that as well. I really like that the game has took the basis of survival games and added their own sort of spin to it. There are other games like this that we have played in the past, but it's definitely something more new to the survival gaming at the moment, considering what we currently have or what we currently have coming, which is more theme park survival. Now, what I don't like about the game is, and this is going to go against some of the things that I do like, but I don't know how far the game can go when you're not being able to build your own bases and stuff like that. Now, that's a lot of people play survival games for the building aspects and be able to do your designing and become your sort of architects within the survival game. And I can see this going against the way some people like to play. Personally, I don't mind, but I can see this being something that a lot of people see and just think, no, I don't really fancy that, because I do really enjoy the building aspects of the game more than the more realistic survival style of the game itself. All in all, though, I would definitely say to check out the demo. If you like survival games, you will enjoy this game. Whether or not you want to go fully into it when the game fully releases, that's up to you. Personally, I'm going to be playing the game. I'm going to be running through the game when it does release in Q2 2022. There will be a link for the demo in my description and in the pinned comment for you to go and check that out. I highly advise you do. And that's all we have for today. I hope you found the video useful. I hope you find it entertaining. Remember to like the video if you did enjoy the video. If you'd like to see some more survival gaming RPG content, make sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to support myself on the channel, we do have a Patreon in the description. Fly safe and avoid local chat scams.